Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's finally talk Bordeaux. I have been waiting for this moment for so long. However, I didn't want to talk about this legendary winemaking region before I traveled here with no sediment. And now that we are finally here, it's time to explore it. Bordeaux is one of the largest winemaking regions of France, and it produces all the wine styles you can imagine and beyond. Many associate Bordeaux with prestige and luxury. Oak-aged red wines sold before they are even bottled, made for long cellaring and potentially even investment. But in fact, that is only a small percentage of what is actually produced here. Moreover, currently more wine is produced here than is actually needed. If you are not located in one of the top appellations, if you are not bottling your wine under one of the big names, chances are you may need to pull your wines out and replace it with other crops very soon. But now let's move away from the sad part and focus on exploring this diverse region, even if it's just by slightly dipping the toe. For the sake of shorter video, I will not be discussing specific appellations, wine styles and producers in detail. I plan to cover these topics in separate videos in the future. Bordeaux is a winemaking region located in southwest France, next to Atlantic Ocean. Because of this, it has a maritime climate, though given the fact that it is quite a large region, each appellation and indeed corner can have a unique microclimate. Bordeaux viticulture is also greatly impacted by the two rivers, Garonne and Dordogne, and their estuary, Gironde. How close or far away the vineyards are located from these rivers will make a lot of difference, often moderating summer temperatures, but also providing cooling winds and possibly even protecting from frost risks. In fact, Bordeaux is often dissected into two parts: left bank and right bank. Left bank meaning Médoc and Haut-Médoc, and right bank with the best known appellations being Saint-Emilion and Pomerol. And then there is Entre-deux-Mers, which literally means between two seas and refers to an area between Dordogne and Garonne. Lastly, it is important to note that Bordeaux is a relatively flat winemaking region, especially Médoc. According to wine writer and expert on Bordeaux, Jane Anson, the highest point for vineyards is only 140 meters. Because there are so many elements that influence the weather each year, it is very important to know your vintages when you are talking, choosing and enjoying your Bordeaux. I know, in recent years there have only been great vintages and vintages of the decade, but still, you get my point. Bordeaux is land of many grapes, and majority of Bordeaux wines will be blend of several of these grapes. In fact, there is even a term for this, Bordeaux blend, referring to the traditional composition of red grape varieties, for most of the time dominated by three grapes, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Cabernet Franc. These are currently also the most important red grape varieties of Bordeaux. Merlot is by far the most planted red grape variety of Bordeaux, but it was not always the case. It plays a more important role on the right bank in appellations such as Saint-Emilion and Pomerol, where it can also be found as the sole player in the wine. It can have quite large percentage of the left bank wines as well. Merlot is preferably planted on clay limestone soils, leaving the gravelly soils for Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Sauvignon is the most important red grape variety of the left bank, most specifically in appellations such as Margaux, Saint-Julien and Pauillac. While there might be some exceptions, it is much harder to find 100% Cabernet Sauvignon wines in Bordeaux, as it is usually blended with Merlot and Cabernet Franc. It is one of the rare grape varieties whose parentage we are certain of, being a cross of Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc. And this brings us to the third most important red grape variety in Bordeaux, which is Cabernet Franc. Naturally, it means Cabernet Franc is an older grape variety than Cabernet Sauvignon, although it is not as widely planted nowadays. You can find it in the several pockets of the left bank, but it is more important in the vineyards of the right bank. Next come the grapes that usually play minor blending partner role, such as delicious Petit Verdot. You will rarely find wine where it exceeds more than 10% of the blend, but winemakers note that it plays a similar role as salt does to a dish. It is a spice that combines and elevates flavors, adding not only spiciness but also acidity. Another two important red grape varieties worth mentioning are Malbec and Carmenere. Both historically very important in Bordeaux, but nowadays usually a minor blending partner, though Malbec is starting to make a comeback. When it comes to white grape varieties, the picture might seem simpler. There are two that we simply must know, and these are Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Others of note are Muscadel and Sauvignon Gris. All of these grapes can be used in production of both dry white wines and sweet wines. Semillon dominates in the Sauternes and Barsac vineyards and is responsible for some of the most sought-after sweet wines made from botrytized grapes. Sauvignon Blanc, although also an important player in these sweet wines, is more of a ruler of a dry white wine realm, more specifically in Pessac-Léognan and Entre-deux-Mers vineyards. There was a short period of increased interest on Sauvignon Gris, which has pinkish skin as opposed to Sauvignon Blanc, but producers found that it has a rounder or rather lower acidity level. And in times when winemakers are focusing on retention of acidity, this grape might be losing interest and thus ground. Lastly comes Muscadel, that can offer aromatic complexity in both dry white wines and sweet wines, but nowadays is increasingly used as a minor blending partner for grapes such as Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Lastly, before we move to other important topics of Bordeaux, I want to mention that in response to climate change, 7 other grapes were introduced for Bordeaux appellation, 4 reds and 3 whites. The better known of these are Marcellan, Touriga Nacional, Petit Manseng and Alvarinho. There are limitations to the use of these grapes in terms of appellations allowed, as well as the percentage in the final blend. But it will be interesting to see how much each of these grapes will shape the Bordeaux wine style in the future. So now let's talk about Bordeaux appellations and wine hierarchy systems. Or maybe, because my mouth is so dry from all the talking, let's leave it for part 2 of this video, where we will also discuss different styles of Bordeaux wines. I will link it here. Cheers!